live, you always do this thing. I wish I could not wear my glasses so much that Michelle had a stab at getting sometimes a screenshot of me without glasses. Michelle, can you use this as the screenshot?
No.
Come on. There you go. Probably better with glasses. Just before we go live, she always goes, now, we must... We must...
I haven't said a must today.
No, you haven't.
Do you know what, guys? I was looking at a clip. I was posting a clip of yesterday's Coffee Moaning when Mark squeezed the bloody lemon on me. And I was thinking something. I don't know if you've ever thought this, but I think you're very like Michael Barrymore.
Right.
And so, like, when you really annoy me, when you go really stupid,
yeah,
I'm thinking, I used to bloody love Michael Barrymore on the television, and actually, I've married Michael Barrymore.
Curious.
No, because I love more than anything somebody that is playful. I love playfulness. I love it. And actually, when you think about our playfulness, not to break it down too much, it's just like at school, where the girls are always going, no, don't.
I remember my nan and
granddad. I married Michael Barrymore.
My nan and granddad used to find him because he was on primetime telly at the weekends all the time, wasn't he? That one where he'd run up and down the stairs.
Well, and the reason he's in our head today is, of course, he's had these accolades for his directing on a West End show.
It's not Laurel and Hardy, it's Laurel and Chaplin.
Yeah, I'm so chuffed.
I didn't realise they were young friends, the two of them. I didn't realise they were.
No, I didn't. My dad would love that.
Yeah,
God, he'd love that.
Yeah. But two things about Michael Barrymore. So one, he used to run around. Do you remember Child's Play used to do that? Did he used to do The Price is Right? He used to do so many shows.
God,
he was so crazy. And I used to demand my grandparents put him on, and they would be like, "Oh, he's so naughty." My granddad would be like, "He's so noisy, he's so anarchist, ADHD." I'd be fascinated to know if he is ADHD.
Yeah,
I mean, it was just, I just remember as a child going...
Not that we should ever diagnose people, but we see our people.
And then many years ago, when I was a video journalist, I had the job of interviewing him at ITV Towers on the South Bank around the time that something... around all of the kind of, the controversy and all that kind of stuff. And I met a man who had an entourage, presumably an ITV entourage with him, who was so down and so depressed and so sad. And we did this interview with him, and we had a moment in a corner of one of the floors of ITV Towers where he was just sat looking out. And I remember saying to him, I said, "Are you okay?" And he just looked at me and he went, "I'm really not."
Oh, no.
And it was such a moment. No, and it was such a moment. I walked away from that, and obviously I'd been sent to cover the story of whatever was going on at the time. And I just remember being touched or thinking, God, that man is feeling something so deep. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it was one of those first moments where someone off the kind of, shiny floor show or something like that, you thought, oh my God, hang on a minute, there's two sides to this.
It's that classic thing, everything you're told off for at school then becomes your genius, and he is that, isn't he? Because you can imagine what he was like at school, running about, jumping
exactly
up.
Like he is now.
Do you remember when he went over and picked up the monitors for the producers? I mean, we just can't see that stuff on telly anymore. Where's the anarchy?
I loved him, and I loved my two favourite. No, he hasn't died at all. No, he's just...
No.
Does he die? I find that funny. Has he died? No. You know what? I was absolutely... it was such a kind of... What's the word when you're sort of like... It's like making Lee Peart laugh is something that I love. If you do that, it's like, and Michael Barrymore followed me, and I was like,
Did he?
Oh wow, that's
He doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
Swear to God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Maybe he thinks you're the son he's never seen.
Maybe.
Imagine waking up, right, which is what's happened to me today when I've looked at that clip and go, oh my God, I've married Michael Barrymore.
You should tell him that. That's quite funny.
No, don't kick off. Does anyone else think it's just so like? But that's so interesting that as a child you loved him.
I loved him.
So he will have influenced your character. And I suppose your grandparents,
and more
not liking him, would have also just like kicked it up even more.
Him, Tommy Cooper, and Eric Morecambe.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. All my faves as well.
Just.
Funny, isn't it?
Oh, God, I'm exhausted. Now I'm going to have to do a plank.
Hyperactive, just like Mark.
Why are we having to do planks? And Elliot, he follows you too. I've had some nice chats in the past. Would love to see him return to telly. But he's
So
directing.
would
Why don't we
I.
all go, Elliot? Let's all go and see his play.
Yeah, we should. Let's all go and sit in.
I don't think he gets as out of breath as me. See, what I don't understand is I'm at peak fitness for me, and that's done me in. Now go and do a thingy, do a wall sit. There's a reason for this.
So this is very good for us, folks.
And you have to do it for quite a while.
Right angle.
You have to do it for 2 minutes.
Okay.
It could be a bit boring.
Very boring.
But no, you're an entertainer, Nads, so entertain. Okay, whilst you're there, what I'm going to do is a particular person's birthday today.
I don't like this.
Stay there.
I don't like
hang
it.
on. Stay there.
No, it's my
no.
knee. It's not.
No.
My, it's not my thigh. It's my knee.
Why
I
do
won
the
a competition of this at ITV against Ben Shepherd, so I can do this.
What? You've won a competition against Ben Shepherd?
We did ITV for something or other, and I was there after Ben Shepherd.
What do you mean you're not there now? Go back.
No, I can't. It's my knee. Honestly, it's really, really hurting my knee. I've got a bad knee.
Okay, well, it's someone's birthday today, and I'd just like to ask this question. Why don't the Russians wear boxer shorts?
Why don't the Russians wear?
Because otherwise Chernobyl will fall out.
Oh, Mark. I wish you'd told me you were going to tell that joke.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
Because I think I would have questioned whether you should.
Shall I do a plank? Because that's the other thing.
Yeah, a plank. So this is all. So this is exercise. These are the exercises. This is a large study. The most effective way to reduce blood pressure. Can they see? We can't see you. Maybe go further back, darling. So the plank. This research they compared the efficacy of different forms of exercise on reducing blood pressure and found that isometric exercises, is doing one now. Your bum's a bit high up. That's not a plank. Bring it right down. That's better. Yeah, right down. No, Mark.
What?
That's disgusting. Some people haven't eaten yet.
That's a plank pulse.
Isometric exercises which involve engaging muscles without movement, such as wall splits.
Wall splits?
Sit.
I can't do it. Fraud.
Do a wall slit. Now do a downward dog.
No, I don't.
Yes, you're holding. Do a downward Mark. Show
I
them
don't want to.
So they were twice as effective compared with the government recommended exercise guidelines.
Isn't that crazy?
I wonder why.
Also, you know those things we had in the 70s, the hand grips?
Yeah. I can't
Not
take
doing that, but if you squeeze it and hold it for a minute,
Oh, okay.
that. Also,
With your thumb outside.
look, I'll show you. It's there's others here as well. Oh, it's so annoying when the Telegraph does that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So these, there are a couple of others. There's the plank. There's the wall sit. There's this one, and there's something
Michael
else.
Mosley was
Oh, leg extensions on the machine at the gym.
I will do
One
that.
but you hold it once you get it to the top.
So go up, hold it for how long?
2 minutes.
Oh. So also
It
like
literally
so
reduces
that's
the
why
systolic
you know
bleeding,
all
whatever it
these
is, systolic.
all these things, you know, I was doing this in yoga the other day. Oh my god, just holding that pose like that, right? I was sweating, pouring with
Stressful,
sweat.
yeah.
And then, you know, all these. So
Let me get the exercise.
yet again, yoga is so brilliant for mind, body, spirit.
I'm just logging into my, hang on, because the Telegraph has got the full list. Yeah, in terms of the exercise, so just remind what the exercises are. It's a wall sit for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
A plank for as long as you can do.
But don't be put off by it's
Yeah.
because just start. If you start a plank
No,
even
for as
with
long as
10
you can do.
seconds, but
Yes,
you
that's
can
what
you
I
have
just
to
said,
build it
for
up.
as long as you can do.
No,
What
but
does
build it up. Shut up.
what does as long as you can do mean?
Well, somebody could be there for an hour and a half.
For as long as you can do.
Yeah, but what if you can do it for an hour and a half?
Well, then you're fucking fit. Right? That's a good thing, no? So yeah, hang on. So the wall sit, the plank, the hand grip, but make sure with a stress ball, Lee, we all tend to do that, don't we? When we sit at a table going, ah, they're fucking cool.
I don't.
But actually just squeeze it and hold it. And a leg extension. But the explanation here is quite something. It says, isometric training was found to lower systolic pressure when the heart is contracted and diastolic in between pumps. So when you contract, it works on your systolic, and when you pump...
Where's my systolic?
And whilst you hold it, it plays with your diastolic.
Oh, crikey. Whoops, there goes my bloomers. Where's my systolic?
I saw it the other week. It was running down the hill.
A number of people there saying happy birthday to Kate Beckinsale, who we adore, and we are going to sing a big happy birthday to you.
I haven't met nor known a bigger knob jockey in all my life.
Knob, 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 knob,
Knob
knob, knob,
jockeys. I think I want to see
She's the
footage of her
funniest.
running around with a hobby horse, but calling it a hobby horse, a knobby horse.
And we're not being indiscreet when we
No, we're
say
not.
she watches Coffee Moaning, because she has posted about that. And so you are in great company, boys and girls.
Put it this way, guys, you're not going to get any other A-list Hollywood star who has a scrotum sack rubbed against her mother's forehead. That's why I like her. I hope it was not a real scrotum sack. I was watching it thinking they're very real.
It's something
If they are.
it's something we can ruminate over.
Seriously, go and check out her latest post. Bless her.
She's so funny.
She's been through a lot of them recently, so bless her. Sending her all her love. Nadia's going to be doing a nude dance later for you. For me, but then for you. Okay, so that's the simple workout. Okay, so what are the stories that we're doing today? It's a curious batch about parenting kids and all this kind of stuff. So shall we start with, let's start with banning phones in school. I don't understand why phones aren't banned in school.
Discuss.
Someone tell me.
Why are phones not banned in school? Now, just one thing, private schools,
Sending you love time for
not
a
all
rhyme.
private schools, I wouldn't say all, because I don't know all schools, but in my experience, having spoken to people whose children go to private schools, the phones aren't allowed in the class. So why can't people in a state school get the same treatment? I mean, Kiki's left school now, and as you know, they were homeschooled for many years, and it's a big thing. She's like, people are on their phones like all the time.
Dawny Harvey says we weren't even allowed calculators.
No.
I don't understand.
I suspect, because now this is the UN have recommended that schools should ban them to give children a better chance at their education. Now look at that, Sin. A better chance for their education.
It also
How
protects
could
them
we
against
deny
online
that?
bullying within school.
Within school. It gives the poor things a bloody break.
That's the bit I don't
I mean,
understand.
the other day, there was some young people around here. I never say the names of which girls it is because I don't want to, but there were some young people around here. And I was sitting chatting to them. And out of nowhere, one of them said, I wish just sometimes we could have a break from our phone.
They want a
And
break.
it was like, and they all went, yeah. And I thought, it's like, for me, it's the same thing as when you have children locked into one building, you have an enormous chance to change things, right? Like I'm always banging on, so supported Jamie Oliver, make sure that kids have an amazing meal every lunchtime, because not every family can afford it, and there are many families that don't even want to cook or don't bother to cook for their children, and they've never seen what a proper plate of food looks like. Why not give them a good lunch and give them a break from the phones? I suspect the schools are going to say, well, how do we manage that? Where do they go? Not everyone's got a locker. Not everyone's going to keep it in their
But
bag.
look, some schools here are already saying they can do it. So let's learn from my easy answer as a tough education minister would be, talk to the schools that are doing it and then ask them how, and then tell the other schools to follow suit.
We know we've got some teachers here. Please tell us
Egan,
why.
in our school, they hand phones to us and we lock them away till home time. One child refused and videoed me without my knowledge and shared around.
No.
That's terrible, Clodagh.
But were you supported by the school?
Well, yeah, I think they're saying it's a school policy, but she was just saying.
No,
when
but
they asked
after
for it.
that, when
Yeah,
you've been
I see.
videoed, because you have to be zero tolerance. You have to, that child, you know, thankfully you haven't named them, but that must be disallowed. A few weeks ago on here, we were talking about that whole village that decided together to not allow any of their children till they were 9 or something to have a mobile phone. And you know, it takes a village.
I don't understand. I get really.
I think we should pressurise the schools.
I have huge issues with the education system and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we've homeschooled. Obviously, we've had lots of chats in the past about education and exams and all that. And it may sound strangely conventional, but okay, so let's sign up to the school concept. I don't understand why there's even a question here. I know people say emergencies. I'm sorry, that doesn't float. Because in many scenarios, in the workplace, in domestic situations, you don't have your phones. You can't have your phones. You have fire alarms, you have staff, you have teachers, you have an entire infrastructure of individuals and people and adults who are maintaining the emergency situation in that school. I think kids, it's important not only for within classes, I think it's really crucial that kids have nowhere in their lives where it's absolutely, you know, incumbent on them to absolutely stop and have a break. And like you say, when you actually dig down into lots of kids, they actually thrive when they're told they can't have their phone for a little bit of time. Well, I'm not saying they shouldn't have their phones outside of school, but I think it would mean that it would force interaction, it would force exchange, it would force chat, it would be awkward at first. But I don't understand how we floated into this. Yeah. I don't see what the need of a phone is. You should be at school learning. And even when you're not learning, you should be engaging face to face with your friends.
It gives them a chance to have a little bit of what it was like for us not to have a... Absolutely, I want my child to be able to take the phone to school.
Tell us why.
Absolutely, you know, I mean, especially when we've got the appalling transport system that we've got, and the amount of times, you know, our daughter had to call us because there was literally no way of getting home. So I support being able to take the phone to school, but why can't we give them a break?
Good point, Lee Darrant. Schools have so many rules. In my niece's school, they are not allowed to go to the toilet unless they have a doctor's note, but they can sit there on their phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what if you can enact one?
Is there any teacher here that has that policy at school and explains to us? Because I'm totally open to the fact that maybe I've missed something, but what is it? If we've missed something, what have we missed? I mean, I know
daft idea that children now say, says Faith Goodman, it's my human right to have my phone.
Well,
it's absolutely nonsense.
But in our daughter's school, they said that it was a resource. A resource. Yeah. But they also had to have computers, so why can't anything you can Google on a phone and Google on a computer?
Oh, that's from a man's back. Well, look, in the Netherlands, they in 2024, from the January 2024, Netherlands are banning phones, tablets, and smartwatches in classrooms.
Smartwatches?
I don't have any problem with that at all. I think the fact that kids have been allowed to have too much of this kit in the classroom is that thing that I sometimes worry that such liberal parenting means that we overindulge kids to a point that actually they themselves are screaming out for some kind of, you know, boundary or something like that. So I just find it shocking. I've never understood it. Yeah, let's do it.
I really want to know if there's anybody that thinks.
So just to make a note, I did one earlier. Should kids be forced to share? Right down the middle as yes and no. We're going to get onto that in a moment. So what's the question now, so that I don't screw this poll up?
Should phones be banned in the classroom, not in schools, in the class?
Oh.
In class. Should phones be banned in class?
Okay.
Ban kids filming teachers. I mean, it's just poor teachers. I mean, my God. Linda, I don't understand anything that happens in the UK anymore. Don't get me started. I've just been listening on LBC to the whole thing of like not being able to call the police if somebody needs to be strained in a mental health. And you know what? There's no plan for where people can phone up. That's a whole other story for another day.
Jackie Villino, parents will probably be down the school complaining that their little darlings have had their phones taken away from them. It's just ridiculous. They should be banned.
But you know, there is locus parentis. You know, that's what happens. That's the agreement.
Locus parentis. Locus parentis.
Locus parentis. You know, you sign over that your child is going to be looked after as the responsibility of that school.
Is that what locus parentis means?
Yeah.
Look at you getting all
Locum.
Latino.
As in locum.
Latino, getting all Latin.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what we think.
Yeah, well,
What do
let's
you think?
have a look. Yeah, look, 98%, 99% say yes. I mean, it seems blindingly obvious.
Oh, look, songbirds. My daughter's school hand them in at the beginning of the day and get them
them
back.
back.
Is it a private school?
So they have them for the journey to, of course, yeah, have them on the way to
Yeah,
school,
absolutely.
have them on the way back from school. Totally get that. There's even an argument for them to have them maybe at lunch. You made a valid point. There will be practical, problems, practicalities involved. Where are they stored? Where are they put? I get all of that. I can see all of that. But I think a one sort of hit arrangement where, there's either a cupboard or a tray or something. I don't know. There's got to be some way of doing it.
Oh, that's a local comp. Songbird
right.
is brilliant.
That's
Brilliant.
Great. Yeah. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Okay. Well, it's clear. There's a huge majority of people feel it's an absolute clearly obvious that they should ban phones. Right, let's sort this out. Let's get it done.
Somebody there asking what time we're on at Seaham. Can you remember?
No, I'm not.
I will find out and I'll put it on my stories on Instagram for you. Sorry, I can't remember.
Okay, mother asks if children should be forced to share after her son is pushed for not sharing on a splash pad. So this is a kid who didn't want to. I don't know what a splash pad is. Is that where you run around on a pad and
yeah? So
splash
basically,
around?
a girl came over, wanted to use the splash pad, shoved him, and then 3 times she shoved him. The mother was waiting for the other mother to come over and tell her off for shoving him, and she didn't. And so her son shoved the kid and carried on using it. And then the mother came over to her and said, "You really should force your child to share."
Should a child be forced to share?
So. My nephew, honestly, he makes me laugh so much. He was a funny little boy, wasn't he, when he was little? And I was saying something about, come on, honey bun, it's really nice to share. And he said to me with the most serious of faces, "But what if you don't like to share?" And I thought, it stumped me for a minute. I thought, yeah, because actually, I find sharing is a lovely. What am I like? If somebody says they like something of mine, I immediately give it to them. It's very Arabic, very, very rooted in my culture. I remember when we were kids, my mum would say, we'd go around to somebody's house, she'd go, "Don't say that you like anything," because they would immediately give it to you. It's it's possessions, have it. And so it was. And you share everything off they get annoyed with me because I like to take food off their plate because I like that sharing feeling. If you think about the way we eat in the Middle East, lots of little plates and everybody's in and out and all that sort of stuff. So sharing is a big, big thing for me. And
I get sick.
Our girls were really good sharers, but I can remember being very disappointed if I saw moments where they wouldn't share. And even now, if I say, "Oh, can I have a crisp?" and they go, "Oh, no," and I'm like, "But I'm your mother. How could you not want to share with me?"
I think people who are siblings.
I've been a bit too extreme on it.
Yeah, I think people who are siblings. I think you're right. I think culturally there are different approaches to sharing. But I think what's difficult here. Someone made a really interesting point there that really what was wrong about this exchange was the shoving rather than the sharing.
Yes, exactly. That's what.
But I think something that's really important to stress is culturally, yet sharing of food and certain aspects of everyday life is an important thing. I think there's a communal sense of things. There's a community. I think sharing a banquet or sharing food. I've stood in a tent in the Wadi Rum and shoved my hand into a mansaf, and we've all kind of stood there eating, and I've felt deeply uncomfortable about it, and everything about it sort of.
It's so funny watching
So my attitude on this is, say for example, I get really annoyed when I've got a plate of food and your hand comes in or someone comes in and says, "Can I have some?" I mean, and that could be seen as someone who just doesn't like sharing, but I'm sharing dinner with you, I'm sharing my time with you. We're all sharing. No, but we're all sharing time together. Let's put it like that. I don't want to share what's on my plate, but
you want to share your top though.
Where does I'm about to get there. Yeah,
from
where does that come from? I do think there's this idea that siblings are forced to share because you have to with your siblings. And only children, which I am, struggle with the idea of sharing. And I think there has to be some truth in that.
I think it's such a struggle for a child to understand. It's a huge, huge concept. They're really having fun with something and you say, share it with somebody else. But I think it's a massively important concept.
But I think around different things, it's different. Because for me,
But I am
around toys,
free.
I struggled to share with my toys. Because I say with William, I didn't have as many Star Wars figures as his. So he looked like he had everything. And I didn't want to share my one broken armed. How do you share one Stormtrooper? Always seemed like he was showing off when he said, "Can I use your Stormtrooper?" So I didn't want to share my Stormtrooper because he had a
Painful
battalion.
memories.
He had a battalion of 20 Stormtroopers. So I was like, well, no, I want to share one. He's like, no, I've got a battalion. So he wasn't sharing. So there's that. Then sharing food for me was actually for me, food was a major issue as a kid. So like when you're eating, you want to sustain yourself. So I didn't want to share. I didn't want to share as much as some kids did.
But I think that I feel very free from possessions. Like, say if somebody wants to borrow something of mine, I will let that go. You know what I mean? If it's not going to come back, I don't feel possessed by my possessions.
I feel easier about letting someone borrow a top of mine if it's not you, because you destroy everything you borrow, whether it's a book. If you ask, oh, can I look at that magazine and I need the magazine article for research or something like that, the reason I hesitate is not because I don't want to give you it, it's because I know it won't come back to me. Or if it does, it will be there'll be a fucking smoked mackerel wrapped with it. Or,
sharing is caring, thank you, Lee.
Yeah, no,
I really see sharing is caring. So I think it's a very important lesson, but I think to be standing screaming, share, it's not like, I think you need to have a gentle conversation because it is a difficult concept. So when a child is small, you've got to keep explaining to them and say, do you know what? It feels nice. It might not now, right here, right now, it might feel difficult to understand it, but it feels nice because it's a nice thing to do. You know, when you do something and then a person smiles back.
It's absolutely,
it's all of that. I think it has to, I've seen people go, oh, you're not sharing, and slap their hand. It's like, God, imagine how confusing that is because as Lee quite rightly says, sharing is caring. So if it's taught in a caring way.
I'm sorry, I'm not disagreeing with you, Lee, but I now want to punch myself in the face repeatedly with the sharing is caring moniker. I tell you where
nephew. What if you don't like it?
Well, no, I tell you where I have seriously nearly lost my shit. Now, I could be about to say something that gets me into hot water here.
Oh God!
Where I have seriously lost my shit is when that little fucking annoying fucker.
Mark, be careful. Who are you gonna? Don't name anyone.
In the playground.
Oh.
Doesn't get off the fucking swing. Hang on, swings in playgrounds and your child's standing there and they've got tears rolling down their cheeks and they're standing there with the bottom lip like that and the boy is like that.
No, but that's the bad parenting. You always teach your kid that if there's somebody waiting, finish off your go, have a few more minutes and then get off.
The last child that did that when I was in a park, I saw it fly that way because I just couldn't resist. I mean, it's a fury that knows no bounds.
Craig Toilet makes a good point. What about when people are taking advantage? Yes.
Good point.
You've also
boundaries.
got to teach the boundaries at the same time. In fact, that is actually a very good point.
Really good point.
Because when you've got a good heart, and both of our children have very good hearts, but one of them in particular is an absolute blooming softie. That was difficult.
And other kids will take advantage, and that's really important. And then they could say, well, sharing is caring. And then you want to
He's going for you now, Lee.
I'm sorry. If someone said, one time I will use sharing is caring is next time I have a toddler and I'm in a park, which isn't going to be anytime soon, with our next story.
Granddad.
And someone's on that swing, I'll go right up to them.
Mark, stop.
No, not them, the swing. I've had to do that in the past. I've had to get the swing and hold it still. And there was a boy holding the chain and I was holding the chain and I was going, I am standing next to a 6-year-old bastard.
And I'm trying to
sharing
zone
is
them
caring.
out.
Did you know that? Lee, my mate Lee says sharing is caring. Get off. Sorry. Anyway, on that note, why won't we be taking kids to the park ever again? Why won't we be grandparents? Because the young have been put off having children by global fears. This, I thought, was a really poignant story, news story. This is research that's been done over 1,000 people aged between 18 to 34. of which only half of Generation Z and millennials say they will plan to start a family. And the reason half of them won't start a family are due to fears around finances and global anxieties. And this is serious shit, because if this trend keeps moving in that direction, and it's reasonable, when you look into it, it's quite reasonable why people feel like this.
Do you know what? When I read this
It spells all sorts of potential disasters for the future.
Our kids have said it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when I was reading this morning, I was thinking, God, I wonder if this is what will push governments to work a bit harder around climate change, because they haven't got enough people to tax and to work and to do all the things they need people for.
You need numbers of people.
I wonder if this would shove them into a state of emergency.
Well, this could be the thing that pushes the entire global economy off the conveyor belt, and this could also
4 children, says Kirsty, and 3 have said they won't have children.
And this could also be the thing that pushes more and more societies towards having to embrace some kind of communal sort of living, or community living. Or I'm not suggesting communism, but I mean, you know what I mean. So there will have to be a rethink. Less people will help the planet, but then of course the infrastructure of the planet will struggle and suffer because there's an appetite for everything. So there has to be a constriction. But when you just look into why kids aren't wanting kids, let's put it that way, 49% say they want time to themselves, 47% financial pressures, 38% fears about the state of the world. 35% feel that essentially children are a huge cause of the climate crisis, which if you think about it, if we're all looking at ways that we need to change our boilers and change our electricity cars, how we power our cars and all this kind of stuff, then having a child is a huge carbon
and somebody there
footprint.
just says, my son said he'd just never be able to afford a child. This is, I mean, we always, bang the drum here for young adults. We think you're having a really shit time, actually. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day, she's a young woman, and she's got a really good job, and she was just chatting away at how lucky she was that her and her boyfriend had found this room in a house to rent from this woman. And I was thinking, wow, where you are with your job, a while back, there's no way you would have been renting a room in somebody's house, because it's unaffordable. The cost of renting a place, you haven't got a chance of renting a place and saving to buy a house. And you can see people are going to just look into the future and go, well, how am I ever going to be able to afford to have childcare in this country as well?
But we automatically say that if the younger generations are having to rethink the idea of having children, or are beginning to think that having a child is a huge burden on society, the world, etc., maybe we all have to rethink our inherited belief systems. We've been brought up to believe that having children is one of the main ambitions of life. Having a family is one of the main ambitions of life. I was always struck when I was younger by when people would say, oh, in Paris, most people rent, because home ownership or property ownership wasn't considered such a thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, in a weird way, you could argue that being, at what point does just having children, because that's part of the narrative, is almost a sort of spiritual ownership, or some kind of egotistical desire to carry something on in your image or something like that. I think one of the things that this made me think about on an existential level, which is where it says, despite 71% of these young adults, so imagine 50% aren't wanting kids, but 71% feel there's still societal pressure. Maybe it's about the pressure. Maybe we need to rethink. Maybe you just saying it's sad what they're having to think about. This is a sad thing. Is it a sad thing? Why do we read it as a sad thing?
Because
I'm thinking
we are
of Ariana.
still in the trap.
I'm thinking about.
We're still in the trap. No, only if you want to.
No, I know. But
Only
as more,
we're still in the trap that these are the milestones you hit. Like you say, we've got to rethink that. You have to own your own property. You have to have family. You have to have a car. All these things we have to shift, and this generation is shifting it.
And also, what might happen is so think of it almost like this. Think of detoxing, coming off drink or something that you want to do less of. Maybe culturally and civilizationally, we've become we've overdosed on the idea of having kids. The pups don't lie, says here. Always pissed off by those socially constructed hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
And maybe, yes, at the moment, even in a survey like this, the kids would say, young adults would say, oh yeah, but we don't want kids, and it's seen as a negative. But maybe with time, there'll come a point where that's absolutely fine. And I'm always struck by, we watch Vanderpump Rules, is Ariana. There's a character in it who's she doesn't want kids. And it's not a loss. It doesn't mean she's less of a woman. No. It's just a fact of life. And I do sometimes think we have to there will be a rethinking of the rubric of life. And I think having kids isn't necessarily...
Well, a long while back when the kids were smaller, I suddenly realised that I mustn't say when you have kids. Yeah. Because I realised that, that's what's been said to me and before. And we've got to, change that, because I was suddenly painfully, I don't know what it was, I watched something or read something and I thought, I mustn't just assume. Yeah. Because actually, it's a very sexist thing.
Yeah.
Because A, what if they never want one? B, what if they can't have them? Yeah. And then I've set up this scenario, this narrative, that this is the absolute of what happens in your life.
Cheryl Jones, there should never be pressure into wanting children. The older I get, the more and more I think about that. The older I get, the more and more I think that so much of when families, relish the idea of kids, there's a sort of, and it's not coming from a bad place, but there's a sort of familial, egotistical desire to carry on the name and carry on the...
mine isn't. I just want to have a grandchild to spoil.
I guess so. Okay, so quickly, we don't want to miss this because you said this is really a significant thing and it's funny, this one. Hulk Hogan, pro wrestler.
It's not so much that it's...
announces third engagement to yoga instructor Sky Daly. But the detail here is that he did this at a friend's wedding.
So the reason I wanted to talk about this was funny because I pitched this story to Mark this morning for us to talk about.
We pitched to each other while she's putting her makeup on.
We send down stories. What about this one? What about that one? And then we call each other.
Yeah.
Because if we're in the same room, we drive each other back. And Mark said, well, what would be the problem with proposing at somebody else's marriage?
Can I say that as if I'd said that?
Yeah, go on.
You asked me.
Yeah, there's a good story here about proposing at somebody's wedding.
Yeah.
This really drives people crazy.
Why?
That's exactly what it is. So, I'm not going to tell you what I think about this yet. I want to know what you think about this.
Just do a poll quickly.
Mark said... No, just an answer.
Oh, okay.
Mark said
no poll.
Why. You can't do a poll for that, can you?
Well, you can.
Because we will know why.
Okay.
Because he's... Oh, no, that is so cringe, said Faith. No, never at wedding. It's their day.
Dawny.
Yeah. Well, what I can tell you is...
Laura Dion, don't steal the limelight.
What I can tell you is, Mark, that is the absolute majority of people will say that. But sometimes it makes me laugh how alike we are, because when we did this a while back on Loose Women, there was another story that popped up, and they were saying, and this person proposed, and everyone in the room in the meeting was like, oh my God, that's awful, I'd be furious. And I was sitting there and I said, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't.
At all.
I'd be like...
I think this was great.
Oh, it's just joyful.
Why?
It's like there's romance here and then there's more romance. So it was really amazing that you thought exactly the same
I suppose it's about how it's done, isn't it? I mean, I suppose if whilst the groom is giving his speech, someone jumps up and hits the floor and goes, will you marry? I mean, Ellie Denning, this is where I came from. I wouldn't mind spread the love people. I thought it's an amplification of love. And in fact, your wedding will be remembered as the day that someone else fell in love and made the...
Like somebody else said that they announced, I remember reading before that, and everyone was very annoyed that they'd announced that they were pregnant at somebody's wedding.
Right.
But it's very it's very,
Yeah, look, Alice Fisher never upstaged the bride and groom, in my opinion. It's their special day. I mean,
To put it this way, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
And why wouldn't I do it? I wouldn't. So say I was pregnant and I was at a wedding.
That's how I feel, Lee.
Though if somebody else said it, if they were pregnant, I'd be like, oh my God, why would I not do that? Because actually what would come into my head is, this is this person's day.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't feel it if it was my wedding. It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, someone met at our wedding and they hit it off and got married themselves. They didn't propose. I suppose, proposing. Focus pulling is the other thing they call it, don't they? To have the focus pulled away from the main event.
Oh, hang on, Sally Hatton, my sister-in-law, announced she was pregnant at my engagement party.
It still annoys me thinking about it now.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it is saying, and now look at me.
But I suppose, isn't there an aspect of that in just hurling the bouquet back? Because then someone else is suddenly the attention, whoever
Whelan.
catches the bouquet, no?
No, that's not the same at all. My two best friends fell out permanently as one brought her newborn baby to the wedding outside the venue in the pram, and the other girl was furious.
The baby had stolen the limelight. See, I think that's a bit...
That's a bridezilla.
Is it? Yeah, you see, it's funny. Maybe it's just an unwritten line in the sand, which we know when it's been crossed, and we know when it hasn't.
Alison Fisher says, maybe if you asked before... Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Because why wouldn't you ask? Would you not ask because you would be worried that they would say no? You are hijacking.
Cheryl Jones, it's attention-seeking behaviour. Let them have their day. I think it's a bit disrespectful and begrudging. I'd be so chuffed, says Lee Durrant, if someone got engaged at my wedding. You know what? I wouldn't mind.
But I suppose think of it like this. So everybody's like, congratulating you. They're coming up to your wedding. Everybody's like, clapping at speeches, and they're like, and everyone's smiling and chatting about, oh, look, they're having their first dance. A huge amount of that would have to go to the people that have just said that they're engaged. And if you think about that...
I think if it happens discreetly, though, I think if it's...
But still, if it's discreetly, why? Discreetly means...
Because you're both...
You go outside into the garden, nobody else there knows, and you say, and you ask them to marry them, and then you don't announce it until the next day, and you say you didn't know, but I actually took off. That would be you not wanting to pull attention, wouldn't it? If you think about it.
Yeah.
The only reason you're going to do it in front of everyone is to pull attention.
Zoe, fuck that, you aren't stealing my limelight.
I mean, God, say you'd asked me to marry at somebody else's wedding, I would be furious with you.
Yeah, but what if I just said it, whispered it at the table?
Well, that's
having
fine,
a bit
that's
of a
what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's what, I think it depends
Of course,
how.
if you're whispering.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Yeah. Okay.
We've got
all right. We've got to go.
But can we first sing happy birthday to Miss Kate Beckinsale? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear
Madam Knob
Kate. Happy birthday to you. Squashed in mud and stew.
Anus Hall. What was I going to say? A couple of bit of housekeeping. It's a live No Name Sunday show this weekend. There will also be a members live with Nanny Di happening this weekend too. And as Nadia said, the Curly Cooks is happening on Thursday evening instead.
At 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And Mark's got a costume.
I wondered what you were going to say there.